There we go. Now we're live on Facebook. Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties here, but we'll go ahead and get started. Let me do some screen sharing and we'll get going. Yeah, I apologize. We're a few minutes behind there with the technical difficulties. You would think by now I've figured it out. There we go. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for another edition of Smart with Your Money Live. My name is Felipe Arevalo. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, Debt Wave Credit Counseling. And today we're talking LGBTQ plus financial tips. As always, I'll go over some of the challenges that are present and then offer some solutions, some tips. And my lighting is off, so let's turn that on because I don't want to be bad lighting. But thank you for joining, and we'll get right started. It's just me today, so we'll get going here. First, acknowledging that there is a hardship, financial implication to it. I got this chart off NerdWallet, but it's according to a 2021 Williams Institute survey. Members of the LGBTQ plus community are 12.2% points more likely to have federal student loan debt. And they found that there's a earning discrepancy. They earn 89 cents to the dollar, and higher percentage of members of the LGBTQ community are living in poverty. So there's it's not something that happened overnight. It's something that, has been going for a while. So I have just a quick, brief history on some of the legislature and some of the things that kind of have led to this point, and some of the things that are being done to reverse some of those. First, a brief history. In 1974, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act failed to mention sexual orientation and gender identity. Then in 1988, the Fair Housing Act was amended and still had no mention of sexual orientation and gender identity. In 1994, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was put into place, and this affects the military, banning openly gay and lesbian members to join the armed forces. That was repealed in 2010, but that was 16 years. Gay marriage was not legal in all 50 states until 2015, when the Supreme Court made the ruling. In 2020, the Supreme Court added the protection against discrimination in employment decisions. This is 2020, this is 3 years ago. And then in 2021, the CFPB issued issued an interpretive rule clarifying that the prohibition against sex discrimination under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. So it kind of went back and fixed the 1974 Equal Credit Opportunity Act. So the CFPB kind of clarified that. Now, unlike some other things in personal finances that we've covered in the past, and like others, I guess it just varies by topic. It depends on where you live, that how much or how little this could potentially be affecting you. It's not even blanket. This is a big country and it's very diverse. So it's very dependent on state in this case. So, I wanted to cover that. I debated, do I put a map up? Do I not put a map up of where? And then I decided, well, facts are facts. Let's just put a map up. So it varies by state. This is a map put together by, it's actually the abbreviation is MAP, the Movement Advancement Project, map by map. Sorry, I couldn't help it. But, it kind of, they've gone through, they have a very elaborate, and they tally up all the different positives and negatives that each state may have, and you kind of see the breakdown there. So it really depends on where you live, how much being part of the LGBTQ plus community will affect you in a positive or negative way. Excuse me. That's not to say that it can't happen anywhere or that it's for sure happening in any given place, but this is just kind of where the state's tendencies tend to lie. So I'll leave that there with that. But some of the difficulties, and some of these difficulties are across the board, anyone can deal with, but members of the LGBTQ community sometimes have a higher increase. And, for some of these, one is debt. Debt sucks. Let's just put that out there. No one likes debt, and especially consumer debt. But on average, members of the LGBTQ plus community carry more student loan debt than their cisgender heterosexual peers. According to Student Loan Hero, they hold 16,000 more in student loan debt on average. Different factors lead and contribute to this problem. They may not have financial support from parents. They may not have the same, and I'll touch on more of these support groups that others traditionally have. 41% of LGBTQ people reported being unable to buy their first home due to student loan debt. And 23% reported being unable to buy their first car due to that student loan debt. And student loan debt is in the news right now. It's been in the news, I feel like, for years. But student loan repayment starting up at the end of the summer, and forgiveness is still TBD. So swing back on student loan debt for everyone. Just kind of got to keep track of that one. We can't time a swim live for that one because the timing for that has been all off. But some things that you could do is you could start your debt payoff journey. And we've touched on this in previous swim lives. If this is your first one, you can check out the QR codes right here and jump in and see what is credit counseling. That might be of help. Or just a little bit more fun one if you need a soundtrack for your debt-free journey and you need to kind of get that motivation and figure out that was fun. I think that's my favorite swim live yet. If you're watching this after the fact on social media or YouTube, scroll down and you'll find these videos and many more. But start that debt payoff journey, make it a commitment, pull up your statements, pull your credit, or whatever you got to do, tally it all up, get organized, and come up with a plan to get out of debt. A budget, it's not a swim live if I don't say start a budget if you don't have one, but budget away so that you can go ahead and pay off that debt that can kind of hold back a whole lot of other things. A big issue in the past, still is not quite as much, is insurance. According to the Movement and Advancement Project, 42% of the LGBTQ population live in states with insurance protections that include sexual orientation and gender identity. That means fewer than half live in states with protections for them. Health insurance was really much of a, especially something like a sexual affirmation surgeries or gender confirmation surgeries. Sorry. I apologize if I use any of the improper terminology during my presentation, but those gender confirmation surgeries are expensive, just like any surgery. And sometimes they may not be covered by health insurance, and this could be tens of thousands of dollars or even over $100,000. And that is a problem financially. Now, continuing on insurance, on the plus side, it is getting better. I came across this Axios article just yesterday. And so I added in this slide. So that's why you got the same picture as the last slide. But it's getting better. The Affordable Care Act has actually made healthcare more equal, and they found that the percentage of LGBTQ adults with the usual source of healthcare increased from 64% to 75% from 2013 to 2019. And disparities in coverage began to decline in 2014 when the coverage of the Affordable Care Act started. So by 2019, coverage rates for LGBTQ adults were actually comparable to those who were not part of the community, although significant disparities in access still remain, especially in certain areas. So coverage rates are there, but it just might be harder to find that coverage. Take a little extra legwork to get there. Always shop around with insurances if you can, and that goes for all insurances. Health insurance is obviously a big one, but any kind of insurance that you may need to shop around for, always not a bad idea for anyone to just kind of sit down and review. There's an increased family planning aspect that comes into play, whether it's medical surrogacy, adoption, whatever it is. There's that increased cost that's associated that may hinder or cause a financial burden just to start a family, just to have a family unit, and there is that increased family planning cost. One idea for that is finding an employer that may be able to help. It might be part of the benefits. It might be part of the benefits. It might be part of, certain companies may offer, a better leave, a better, they just may have programs available. I know some people I've known maybe just moved to a completely different thing because they may cover certain medications, procedures. So find an employer who might be able to help. That could be a big benefit. The pay might be different, but that big beneficial added bonus could make or break your employment decision making. So, look at that. Another difficulty sometimes is the higher cost of living. Yes, you can no longer discriminate due to, in home lending, that was added in. But it doesn't mean that, maybe individuals who are part of the LGBTQ plus community might not feel as comfortable living in certain areas, whereas someone who's not could just kind of plop down wherever. So they may be having to look for communities or areas of town or areas of the country that are better suited for, what they're looking for, where they feel more comfortable. And this is especially problematic sometimes for elder care, where, or communities where there just may not be as many options. And that's already enough of an expense and enough of a hardship for people on a limited income trying to find, a place to live in their senior years, older years. And I apologize if I'm using the wrong terminology. If I am, drop it in the comments. I'm happy to fix it. The higher cost of living can sometimes add that added stress. There's also a slide I had in here. I don't know where I went, but lower investment, harder to plan for retirement. A lot of these things lead to that. If you're paying more to live where you need to live, if you're paying more for your student loans, if you're paying more for your health insurance, that allows less money for savings, less money for investment, less money for long-term retirement planning, which then can come back to be an issue down the road, for anyone. But if you have these added expenses, then it decreases the ability to go out and do more of the positive things like saving, like investing. If you are home buying, talk to multiple lenders, assemble your home buying team, talk to lenders and realtors who are comfortable in that area of town that you're looking to get, and find the right one, find not just the best rates, but assemble your team. The home buying process is long and confusing. And if you have the right team with you, you can call them up, text them, shoot them an email, whatever it is, and say, hey, look, I need some help. I need some guidance. You want to have that solid team before you go start home buying. Find the right realtor, right lender, and try and have them ready to go on your team. That just kind of goes for everyone home buying. But oftentimes, unfortunately, part of the financial problem is from a lack of support, whether it's from whether it's from peers or their, again, I'm going to use the wrong term, core nuclear family, family of birth, I think is the correct term. And that support sometimes isn't there. I saw a stat according to families, a scholarly article, Family Matters, Social Support, and Mental Health Trajectories amongst, is a long title, and it goes on. It was by Elizabeth McConnell et al. But it stated the LGBTQ youth represent 40% of the clientele at youth homeless agencies, and family rejection due to sexuality or gender identity were the most frequently cited reasons for homelessness. So this is a big issue with youth, with teens, and the difference between having that familiar support and not is, I mean, you look at the research. That was one thing I didn't expect. The numbers are staggering when they don't have that support. And that goes beyond the finances. I know I'm a personal finance guy and I talk about money all the time, but that goes well beyond the financial components to it. It has a big financial component if your family all of a sudden is no longer supportive, especially in those younger years. But it's just, there's so much more to it. So find community resources, find support. There are organizations specifically tailored to assist. And then there's organizations that aren't specifically designed for that, but can still be a great resource. So look for community resources in all the different categories, county resources, city resources. Here in San Diego, you can call or visit 211 San Diego. I don't know if you can visit them in person, but you can visit them on the website. And 211 is available in different communities around the country. I came across a whole bunch of cool resources while I was doing my research for this. So find that community support. We just finished May, which was mental health awareness, before transitioning to Pride Month. So take care of your mental health, and that goes through, I'm saying that goes for everyone. But take good account of that. Find the community resources. There are organizations, there are if it's not your friends and family, there's organizations, there's people who can be friends and family going forward. So find those resources, and then happy to take any questions. Okay, I got a question here over from the Facebook side. Does the SDFLC have LGBTQ plus friendly people who can help with that? Absolutely. You can, I'm gonna stop the animation there because I think it's making my internet go slow, but yeah, absolutely. Give us a call. We're happy to help anyone with their personal finances. Open resource to the community, and that community is anyone. It's a different, if there's different levels of understanding, look, call me, get directly to me, and we can figure it out. We'll come up with, I'll help you find resources. If it's not us, I'll help you put together a budget. you know, I know we have lots of team members who would be happy to help. If nothing else, you got Phil, you can give me a call, I'll help you out. And we can go from there. But yeah, absolutely. Come up with a plan to pay down your debt or start saving or investing or whatever it is you want to do. Except I won't give you investing advice because I'm not a CFP. But we have volunteer CFPs. Absolutely, we help with budgets. The question is, do you help with budgets? Yes, absolutely. And this could be a very simple, like I've never budgeted before. What do I do now? To I budgeted once, or I've tried it a couple times and failed, or here's my budget, it's kind of working, but I don't know if I could do better. All the different stages of budgeting. Absolutely, we can help with everything from maybe I should budget, what's a budget, to here's my budget, but I want to do better. And those resources are free to anyone. Give us a call, shoot us an email. We'd be happy to help. Any other questions? Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this swim live, or watching it after the fact on various social media, YouTube, whatever. Go out and have a happy Pride Month and enjoy the festivities, or just enjoy everyday life. That goes for everyone. You always continue learning. We have a podcast. It's called Talk Wealth to Me. Available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed this one, or you just, oh, that was kind of cool, maybe I'll give this guy a chance for another one. Just came across us, or you attend all of them. Here are some tips for finding affordable summer camp and childcare if you got little ones. That's expensive. And then now that summer's around the corner, they don't get to go to school. So where do you put them? What do you do with them? Some ideas for some affordable summer camp and childcare. That is in 2 weeks. You can always go on Eventbrite and find the full lineup of upcoming. And maybe you don't have kids yet, or maybe you don't want kids. You can go ahead and skip this one, but there's a whole lineup of events right there on that QR code at Eventbrite. It's your search DebtWave, and make sure you click on the little button that says online events. And you can check out what we have coming up for the rest of the year, sign up for the ones that apply to you. And I look forward to having you all come back and watch another one. Any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out. And thank you for joining, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all next time.